Thank you.
I didn't think we were going to be so popular today. It's great seeing everybody here. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. So, most people that join the police, we do so because we care about protecting our communities and making a meaningful difference. Oh, wrong slide. Done that. We're too early. That's why between Nick and myself, we have over 35 years of combined service within Thames Valley. We are both members of staff. We're not police officers, so you're not going to see us out on patrol at all. But we are proud to share our story on how we are using Drone2Map to streamline operational policing.
Good morning, everyone. Just imagine if you were the senior police commander being deployed to an incident. Now, this incident could be a serious road traffic collision. It could be the last known location of a high-risk missing person. It could, God forbid, be a murder scene, or it could be a royal event in Windsor, around Windsor Castle. Now imagine that when you arrive on scene, within 30 minutes, you are given access to detailed interactive 2D orthomosaic images and or 3D meshes. These will inform you in your placement of resources, situational awareness, and potentially evidential material. We in Thames Valley Police in Hampshire don't have to imagine. We are doing this today with Drone2Map.
So we are a joint operational unit, so that means we work across both Thames Valley and Hampshire, and we will bring teams together to bring new and exciting ideas. So these are our strategic pillars and our values across both forces. This is what drives us to do what we do every day. And throughout this talk, we will hopefully demonstrate how we are using Drone2Map to support these values. So some stats for you. Alone, Thames Valley is the largest non-metropolitan police force in England and Wales. Both Hampshire and Thames Valley combined have 4.3 million residents. We cover 3.8 thousand square miles, and that covers Hampshire, Isle of Wight, Oxfordshire, Bucks and Berks. There are 15,000 officers and staff employed in both forces, and we have 430 combined miles of motorway and coastline. And if you haven't been down to the coast down in Hampshire, it's worth a visit. That's if you don't get stuck on one of our motorways. So if you recognise all four of these photos, we can be friends. So we have quite a large, diverse operational landscape. So our top two photos there, we have a couple of festivals. We've got Reading and we've got Isle of Wight. Some of you may have attended some of those, but those bring in an extra 150,000 people that we need to keep safe. The bottom left there, Windsor Castle. So that is the largest, oldest occupied castle within the world. We hosted 3 state visits there last year. And on the bottom right corner there, that's one of our contact centres where we take 1.3 million calls a year. So from those 1.3 million calls, we have to deploy officers some of those. So we create over 1,100 incidents that need an officer to attend. We receive 27,000 calls around missing people, 900 serious traffic incidents, and out of all of that, so 90% of our investigations now feature digital evidence, which is a challenge recognised nationally. All of this comes at a cost. So these stats are from the Home Office. So your average cost of a murder will be £600,000. That cost triples for a major investigation. It's £60,000 for a serious road traffic incident and £2,500 for a missing person investigation. That might not sound a lot, but we do get 27,000 recorded each year. So one thing to take away from this is we are using Drone2Map to save money within the police and reinvest that into new technologies.
And let me show you how we are achieving that. So it's important to remember now that Thames Valley Police and Hampshire Police have had drone capability for quite some time. This is not a new capability, but it's a new process that we've developed. So the first slide I'm going to take you through is the old process and the bottleneck that had, and then I'm going to take you into the new process on the subsequent slides and to show you where we are now. So the drone team, our air support unit, would receive a tasking. The officer with drones will deploy to the incident location. The mission would be planned and flown. Once that drone has completed the mission and landed back, we had to, old time, pull out the SD card that was within the drone which stored the JPEG images. And then the bottleneck. We had one standalone PC down in Southampton. That was the only machine that could process this imagery. That machine was running Site Scan, which was it took a lot longer to process the imagery than Drone2Map. But if you can imagine from that earlier slide, you could be in Milton Keynes or Banbury, which is the northern edges of TVP, and that SD card then had to be transported down to the southern end of Hampshire. That's hundreds of miles. So once that the SD card had been transported down to Netley, the JPEGs would be uploaded onto the machine and they would be processed in Site Scan. Then the images had to be taken off of that machine and put onto a machine that was connected to our network. And then it was sent out via email or PowerPoint to officers requesting this. So this took on average 5 to 7 working days, which quite frankly was ridiculous. So what we did, in our enterprise license agreement, we had Drone2Map advanced licenses available. Across the force, we had some high-tech or high-spec laptops capable of running Drone2Map software, which were repurposed and issued out to the drone pilots. So initially, we didn't have to find a great wad of cash to make this work. Everything was in force. We did, however, have to take some time working out the process and how this would best suit the drone pilots. So left-hand side there, you can see, and he's actually in the room today, I have to add, so any questions afterwards, I shall point you to him. So they deploy with the drone. Drone is ready to fly. The center image, that's the drone controller. That's where the mission is planned, and you can see quite faintly there, but there's a video after this of the route the drone is going to fly. And then importantly, in the back of the vehicle, you've got the laptop, you've got one of our force mobiles, and you've also got Starlink, which gives the capability to upload the JPEGs to our LAN straight away, so everything can be done in situ. So this is part of a mission being flown. It's not AI generated, it is an actual mission, but not operational. It was for training purposes at Upper Hayford, so I shall start that. If you can just make out under the green line going across the center of the screen, there's a blue hexagon or polygon. That's the area that we're interested in. So that's the area that we want the drone to capture. The green lines is the route of the drone. So it goes outside of that because we want to create a 3D image, and for that they need to be oblique shots from the outside looking in. But you can see from that, the drone, the blue arrowhead, is flying along the mission route. We've got the little green lines coming out from it showing forward facing. Bottom left-hand side, you've got the camera that takes the images that we're going to be processing. Bottom right-hand side, you've got the forward-facing camera of the drone showing where it's going. And then you've got some metrics in the center, percentage of the mission completed, estimated time left until it is finished, altitude, distance flown, vertical speed, horizontal speed, number of images taken, and the location of the drone. So I've just about timed that right. The drone is just on its last leg now, just turning for home. When it gets to the end of this last leg, it will turn to its right, pointing back to the H, which is its home where it took off from. It knows where it's got to land, so it will point back to there, fly back and land. Once it lands, the two processes diverge. Up until this point, they were the same, but this was the point on the old process where that SD card had to be transported down to Southampton now. Now, when the drone's landed, the SD card comes out and it's processed in the back of the vehicle. So, SD card's removed, laptop in the back of the vehicle, SD card into the laptop, the JPEGs are taken off. Those JPEGs are loaded into Drone2Map, also on the back of the laptop. And on that laptop, we have Drone2Maps installed. Drone2Maps now enables us to do some analysis before we process. So things like water, standing water, moving water, it's not the friend of drone imagery, so we can shroud that so it doesn't try to process water. But more importantly, down the right-hand side, we can tell the software what products we want. Whether we want both 2D, 3D, whether we want surface models, terrain models, or point cloud, all of these options are available to the pilot in site. Once it's been processed, right-hand side, you can see we've got a 2D orthomosaic and we've got a 3D scene. That's produced within 30 minutes from the mission you saw flying on the video. Still on site, these products can be uploaded, published from Drone2Map to our Esri enterprise solution, so our cloud-based solution. You can see there going through the publishing screen and onto our enterprise solution on the right-hand side. And from the enterprise solution, we are then able to share the products out dynamically and securely to whoever we want to see these. So we've got ArcGIS Pro in the left-hand side. That gives us the ability to use the imagery and the mesh with all the GIS tools associated with Pro. We've got ArcGIS Earth on our mobile phones. We can still share out to 2D viewers and 3D viewers within the enterprise solution by URL, but we can also use Experience Builder. So on the right-hand side there, you've got that mission, 3D mesh, pushed into Experience Builder, and very quickly some widgets are put onto that, and then that can be shared out again. More for briefing purposes, so you can annotate the mesh, but you'll see that in the next slide. So this is that same mission. Very quick, it's less than a minute, so I haven't done everything you can do with this, but if I start this, you can see, you can zoom out, you can zoom in, situational awareness, get a good understanding of the scene. I've added some widgets. So the first widget is the draw widget. So this could be where you might want to position your scene guards. So you can deploy people quickly. You can deploy, this map can be shared to show officers where you want them. If it's a tactical response, you can start to say, this is the way I want you to approach the building or the door or another part of the scene. We can do line of sight, so you can select a point on the map, and then as you drag the cursor around the screen, you can see it's quite faint, but the green and the red on that line. So if it's green, it can be seen. If it goes red, you can't see it. Useful for tactical responses. And for evidential purposes, or just for a bit more intelligence, we can add other widgets where you can do weather. So we can put rain on the, try to replicate what the scene was like at the time. Weather, we can extend shadows for time of day if it's overcast. So all these things add to a far better picture for the commanding officers. Unfortunately, though, just after we had embedded this new process, we had the tragic incident at a business park in Bicester. I don't know if you remember, that was last year, where 2 firefighters and a member of the public tragically lost their life. If you just read the left hand and the centre text there, they're just comments from the first responders that attended that scene. So not a good incident to attend, but the feedback was good. It did improve the response. And the right-hand one, that's just one I've put on there because I like it. It makes me smile every time I read it. Again, this was a big, burly pilot, taller than me, bigger than me. He told me the weekend after this process started, it made him giddy. And it made me smile because he told me he went home that weekend, he wasn't rostered to work. He took 10 SD cards home with him that were supposed to be transported down to Netley, and in his own time, he processed those images so they could be sent out on the Monday morning. So it just makes me smile, that one. So in a little bit of a wrap-up, we had drones, but the capability wasn't fit for purpose. This new process using Drone2Map in the back of the vehicle and our enterprise solution has reduced the average time from 5 to 7 days down to 30 minutes. That is obviously mission dependent. The longer the mission, the longer the processing takes, but that is a massive change for us. We are now producing detailed and interactive 2D orthomosaics and 3D scenes. Before it was a screenshot at best, sent out on a PowerPoint or an email. And these are assisting our commanders and officers that are being deployed in their operational briefings, with investigations and evidential material, and with operational planning. And this slide is just to show the uplift on the tasking requests that our ASU has received. It's not a full year, because when we started doing this slide, they hadn't got to a full year, but in 11 months. And I think, importantly, total deployments are up almost 22%. I found out yesterday that month on month, that's gone up to 60% more recently. And you go down there, they're all green. There's some significant changes there. And importantly, the outcomes, MISPA, missing person, located. As I said earlier, we have thousands of those a year. With this new deployment process, we are locating 65% more of these missing people, which is saving the force a significant amount of money. And another hot off the press comment I heard this morning was that nationwide air support units, 80% of taskings are now drones, not helicopters. So this is not just Thames Valley Police doing this, it's across the whole of the nation. The helicopters there, they are still getting deployed, but on a cost-based analysis, they cost us almost £4,000 an hour to fly. The drones cost the wage of the pilot. So big savings there as well. Within my department, we are constantly looking to improve this process. It's never going to be the best. We're always going to be able to improve it. So we are continually looking to do that. We are looking to innovate both the products and, again, where we can, the process. And we are starting to investigate how deep learning can assist us with some of this imagery. So I've got the slide after this is, again, it's training data. It's not operational. And I say that because it looks like there's some bodies on it, and they're not. They're mannequins. So this is training data, again, at Upper Hayford. We haven't got the ability to create our own models yet. We will do later this year, but this is a pre-trained model that Esri supplied us. Drone flew, we had 2 mannequins out in various positions, the drone pilot and myself, so 4 bodies on site and on scene. The drone mission was flown, landed, processed, and then we ran the model over it. Now, the model took a couple of hours to run because we haven't got the processing power at the moment to run that model, but 100% successful. It located the 4 bodies that we had out on scene.
So we are now using the drone team a lot more. It does say up there 22% year on year. It is actually, in fact, a lot more than that now. But we are truly proud to be able to use Drone2Map to improve how we are serving our victims and fighting crime. Next slide. And thank you very much.
Good afternoon, and thank you to Thames Valley Police for the inspiring work that you're doing out in the field. I'm Tom, and today Faye and I will be giving you a bit of an insight as to Drone2Map and Site Scan through the lens of a drone. We'll cover some of the key capabilities of both of the software suites so you know which one to use within your workflow, as well as ways to engage with the data and share the data. In a world of constantly advancing technology, it's never been easier to capture or obtain high-quality imagery. With drones becoming more readily accessible, easy capture is within fingertips reach. Consistent and repeatable data capture is appropriate for everyone, and we can also improve data-driven decisions. One area where drones are really coming into their own is within environmental monitoring, whether that's working within sensitive environments where potential ground assessment may not be applicable, aiding in the investigation process when looking at environmental crimes, or looking at land change within natural hazards. Drones play a key role in all of these use cases, whether it's obtaining an initial baseline survey, all the way up to helping within policy management and land management practices. The example we'll be covering today is looking at one such natural hazard along the River Tweed in the Scottish Borders. The data we'll be using today is courtesy of Tetra Tech, a partner of ours within the consultancy space, where they were tasked with capturing a recent landslide on the river. Now, although the team could investigate the hazard close up, a drone-first approach minimized the need and reduced the danger in the hazard. From here, we're able to derive insights from the imagery going forward. Within the picture in the bottom left, you can see we're in close proximity to an NHS site, and this just adds further necessity to capture the erosion going forward. Using this example, we'll cover both Drone2Map and Site Scan from field to office and ways to engage with the data. But first, let's have a look at Drone2Map.
Thanks, Tom. So we understand the desired outcome for our use case, but the real question is, how achievable is high accuracy drone reality capture using ArcGIS in a real operational workflow? Well, Thames Valley Police have just shown us what they have been achieving with Drone2Map. But I'd like to note that the workflow they outlined is industry standard for reality capture. It's not Esri specific, but with ArcGIS is where it all comes together in one environment. So the first phase of our workflow is image acquisition. This includes both mission and flight planning, and whether you're planning your flights in ArcGIS Flight or a third-party application. The key is consistency in imagery, so appropriate overlap, good coverage, and reliable metadata. But please do make sure you get appropriate permissions before you carry out your capture sessions. Once we have our imagery, the second phase is processing, and this is where the accuracy is established, bringing together your imagery, camera models, and ground control points so that the software can align the imagery to adjust it from camera space to real-world coordinates. From that aligned data set, we can generate a series of products from 2D true ortho mosaics through terrain surfaces to full 3D representations for visualization and engagement. And critically, these outputs aren't locked onto a desktop. In the final stage of our workflow, they can be shared across the ArcGIS platform. So, going back to our case study, in this scenario, with a drone technician on site surveying the landslide, we want confidence that we have safely and correctly captured everything that we need in a single visit. And that's where Drone2Map comes in, using rapid offline processing to validate imagery coverage and quality whilst you're still in the field. So why Drone2Map? For anyone who's not familiar, Drone2Map is Esri's standalone desktop application for reality mapping solutions using drone imagery. Drone2Map's built-in tools and photogrammetry workflows make it easy to generate high-resolution, authoritative 2D outputs, such as true ortho mosaics, digital surface and terrain models, and derived products such as indices from multispectral imagery. We can also generate rich 3D outputs, such as point clouds and textured 3D meshes. Once processed, these can be shared to ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Enterprise, and even opened directly into ArcGIS Pro for continued analytical workflows, turning your drone data into immediately usable GIS assets. And crucially, it works offline, so we can process and validate our imagery without worrying about connectivity, which is essential when you're working in remote areas. So at its core, Drone2Map is about confidence. Confidence you have enough imagery, confidence that it aligns correctly, and confidence that the outputs you're generating are fit for purpose, whilst you're still on site. And because it's designed specifically for drone imagery, there's no configuring complex general-purpose tools while you're still on site. Everything is streamlined around drone-first workflows. This includes support not only for natural color imagery, but also multispectral and thermal imagery too, so you can assess site conditions beyond the range of human vision. Recent enhancements include deep learning powered ground control point detection, further enhancing accuracy and speed of that alignment process. And also support for Gaussian splats, which was mentioned in the plenary and we will hear more about later. Coming soon, AI assistance for documentation and automation, further supporting efficient workflows, allowing you to focus on deriving maximum value from your drone imagery. So in short, Drone2Map is built for making confident site decisions wherever the work happens. So back to the field, our drone team can select that rapid processing template and quickly and easily set up a new project to import our folder of images. The rapid template allows you to rapidly assess the quality and coverage of those images. Images in the flight lines are imported and pre-symbolized, and we can view a snapshot of any of the images by clicking on the image center there. You can click through and it will move to the next image in your flight line. We can also look at the image table, which includes data such as your coordinates, GPS coordinates, and the accuracy of those too. Lastly, we can look at the image metadata, which contains information about each image, including the camera model, the alignment parameters. So we're happy with all of that. We can now go ahead and generate our true orthomosaic. Now, by default, it's configured to produce a lower resolution product to optimize your processing time. However, you can go in and change some of the options, such as the orthorectification method, if you wish to. Now, clearly this is sped up for the purposes of this presentation, but in just over 20 minutes, the imagery is processed and we can assess our survey. The last thing I'd like to look at is the processing reports. And this has details of how many images were used, the tie point statistics, which images were excluded, and at the bottom, the map of the overlap. So we're pretty happy with our survey. We'll now head back to the office to catch up with Tom and carry on processing the imagery.
Brilliant. Thanks, Faye. So let's see how Site Scan can fit into our workflow. So for those of you who aren't aware what Site Scan is, it's our software as a service solution or cloud-based processing of drone data, meaning that you don't need to worry about your local hardware or computing capacity. Simply add in the raw data and process with ease. Within Site Scan, we also have a comprehensive fleet manager system, so you can see a full overview of your drones, your battery levels, pilots, and so on. We also have seamless integration with ArcGIS Flight, meaning that you can bring in your flights directly into the system. We also integrate with external systems, such as BIM 360. This means that you can add in and overlay data and provide context to your overall site. And finally, within the recent update, we can also process up to 5,000 images per mission, or 10,000 with a custom subscription. This means that you can work with higher quality data and more of it. Let's jump into Site Scan now to have a look. So here we have the data that Faye and the team have already sent through to us. Now, as you can see here, we have processed it already. And within this site, we can also add in a new mission for future erosion measures, as well as merge missions together for a larger overall output or to look at more focused areas. As you can see here, we have our true orthomosaic, which we've processed. And one of the ways which we can interrogate the data and visualize the data with the true orthomosaic is within the timeline feature. In this feature, we're able to add in 2 different timestamp data layers. Now, considering this is just a baseline survey, we only have the one, but this is where we'd be able to compare between 2 different data sets. Once we processed the data, it was aware that the water body, the river, was causing some errors within the point cloud. And to combat this, we added in a water mask. Now, this was simply drawn onto the map, but also we can add in layers for more intricate water bodies. It would be good for the team to have a bit more of a quantitative view of the data and not just see it as a visualization tool. And looking at the point cloud, we can do this. As you can see here, the water body mask is persisted and it's been removed from the overall point cloud. But it would be good to see an overall cross-section of the elevation onto the meander. And by using some of the tools on the right, we can do so. So if I select the elevation profile, I can select two different sides of the river, and we can see a cross-section of the river here. As you can see, the team can then go down to very specific points and ultimately derive the elevation. You can see that the riverbed has been taken out, and so we have a true representation of that. It would be good for the team to also delve into the 3D mesh and be able to pinpoint some key areas where potentially an on-ground assessment would be needed. If we pan through here, we can select certain areas that the team can go to in person. By using the marker tool, we can select, for instance, this bit of debris here, which we may want to understand exactly what it is. By selecting that area, we get all the photos which show up, so we can get it from different angles and also have that marker as a waypoint for people on the ground. It would be useful for the team to not only be able to share this across departments, but also have a hard copy of some of the data. And we can do this within Site Scan. As you can see, we can download all the data in various different file formats, as well as the processing report, similar to what Faye showed, and all the measurements that goes along with it. So that's Site Scan, but how does this compare with Drone2Map?
So over the last few minutes, we have shown you two products. Both process drone imagery, and both generate high accuracy image products. So how do they compare, and which one should you use and when? So let's start with the similarities. They're both designed for city-scale projects, and both support features such as automatic ground control point detection. They have built-in tools, including image annotation, measurements, and inspection reporting workflows. But where they differ is how they fit into your operational workflow. Drone2Map is designed for rapid, confident decision-making. It's a desktop application with that standout feature of offline processing. And Thames Valley Police have shown us how they have been able to quickly capture and map incident scenes using Drone2Map. Site Scan, in comparison, is an end-to-end cloud-based SaaS platform designed for organizations that wish to centrally manage drone operations at scale, bringing together mission planning, flight control, fleet management, and data processing across multiple teams. So an example of a user may be a GIS manager in a large utility or an infrastructure firm, looking to coordinate drone activity across multiple teams and multiple sites. So with that in mind, let's now take a look at the products in a bit more detail.
So we've given you a glimpse as to some of the products, but let's have a look at them individually now. Using both the digital surface model and the digital terrain model, we're able to derive not only the elevation on the built environment, but also the natural terrain. With the True Ortho Mosaic, the team can delve into the data and get a full, comprehensive top-down view of the area of interest. This can also then be used for the likes of change detection within larger sites. And then for the 3D outputs, we have the point cloud and 3D mesh. Now, as I showed, we can delve into the data, interrogate the data, and add in measurements. Now, these make up the more traditional 2D and 3D data outputs. But as Faye mentioned, Drone2Map now supports Gaussian splat creation, and this really comes into its own when looking at the finer levels of detail. As you may be able to see on the photos on the left, the vegetation hasn't rendered quite as well as we would have hoped for. And it's really important for the team on the ground to be able to understand exactly what vegetation is at risk of falling, but also to see that the gates and fences are still structurally sound. Using that exact same data, we're able to process it as a Gaussian splat. With these outputs, we're able to see high fidelity detail within individual branches. We can see the individual wires of the fencing, and we can understand everything is still good to go. So these are the data outputs, but how can we ultimately share this across the ArcGIS system?
So today we can publish our imagery products from both Drone2Map and Site Scan to ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise. We can also open products directly in ArcGIS Pro for continued analytical workflows. Drone2Map derived imagery products, including true orthomosaics, digital surface and terrain models, point clouds, meshes, and new at our last update, Gaussian splats, can easily be shared as hosted imagery and scene layers, making them immediately usable in enterprise GIS workflows. Drone2Map now supports publishing complete 3D web scenes in a single step, eliminating the need to manually compile layers after upload and mirroring the simplicity of 2D web map sharing. In Site Scan, for those who need to quickly and easily share their products, there is a click URL button, view URL button, sorry. Anyone with that URL can open the link in a web browser. This year, Site Scan introduced dynamic imagery layer and tiled imagery layer publishing options, giving you flexible options for raster analysis, whether that's using GeoAI or built-in raster functions. We've also added support for oriented imagery layers, allowing you to add more immersive context to your projects. So making our data accessible in our ArcGIS environment enables analysis, sharing, and collaboration across the organization, with your stakeholders, and even engagement with the community. Once shared, you can combine your imagery products with your own GIS data or overlay it with layers from the Living Atlas and present it in web apps such as a simple 3D scene viewer, immersive 360 virtual reality apps, longer story maps, or informative dashboards for tracking site inspections. You can also add your orthomosaic as a base map in field maps for more accurate fieldwork. Right, so here we have an instant app using a 3D template. And this presents a 3D web scene with our Gaussian splat layer that we've derived from our drone imagery. We've overlain that with some auxiliary data describing our building use. I can't see what I'm doing. And we have access to simple tools like bookmarks, for example, for key locations, and measurement tools. I'm going to do this so that we can explore, say, the height of the landslide. And with this, we're able to communicate with our stakeholders to assess the risk of that landslide in the local environment. We can use it as a baseline to compare with future studies so we can see how that risk evolves. So picking the right tool for the job is paramount when building efficient and scalable workflows. And what we've showcased today is an example of that. We processed the data captured in the field to assess that it was appropriate for the needs of the project. We then processed it fully in Site Scan, integrating the imagery, allowing us to inspect that landslide up close and assess the hazard and pull out key metrics. And finally, we added context to the data, not just providing an application for the imagery, but overlaying auxiliary data so that we can understand the risk in the local environment. And so the key message I'd like to leave you with today is that drone reality capture doesn't have to be a niche skill. It can be a managed GIS capability. And with ArcGIS, whether you're responding to incidents or managing change over time, ArcGIS turns your drone flights into trusted GIS data that your organization can rely on. Thank you.